One of the biggest insecurities that so many boys were raised with as a man is that they had to be physically dominant to assert their masculinity. I'm sure you guys, when you were younger, used to think, man, I'm too small, man, I'm too little, because you would see guys in middle school and high school who were in their grown man bodies. They were 6'2", a lot of them were 200 pounds, 10% body fat, and yeah, they exerted their will. They would oftentimes ignore you because all the women would be around them. All the other guys wanted to be within their group. And what it did is it developed an inferiority complex within you, where you grew up thinking that unless you were physically dominant or had overarching physical gifts, you were less of a man. And as you grew older, you learned to cope with it by overcompensating, whether that was through getting materialistic things, whether that was getting the approval of other people who, by the way, didn't give a fuck about you. And you felt the only way that you could quote unquote be a man was to find a void because you lacked something physically. A lot of guys do this. It's the reason why so many guys feel like their shortness is the root of all their problems. Why guys who are super skinny have to go to the gym and lock in and get gains for a woman to look at them. And yeah, being tall can help. And yeah, having weight can help. But more than all of those things is your masculine presence. And you can develop a masculine presence without being physically dominant. You think women are attracted only to guys like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, LeBron James, these super big bodybuilders? No, it's guys who learn how to internalize the different gifts of dominance that the Most High gave them. And one of the gifts doesn't have to be physical. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys 4 ways that men can dominate life within their own self without having to be physically dominant. So we're gonna get into it, but before we do, if you guys like this video, make sure you like this video. And also, if you enjoy content that shows you how to transform your mind from being controlled and manipulated and used by other people like the pawn into being a self-autonomous, only wants freedom and has control of his life like the king, then make sure you guys subscribe for more content. So now that we got that out the way, here are the 4 ways that men can dominate non-physically. The first way is socially. A lot of you guys do not understand how powerful your words are. In fact, I would argue that your words are more powerful, more deadly, more potent than any amount of size that you have, because your words can travel farther than your body can run. Your words can outlive longer than your body can last. Why do you think so many people read the Bible? So many people look at books of wisdom from Socrates to Plato, because a man who has the gift of speech and he intermingles it with wisdom or skills or charisma or humor, this is a guy who impacts people. He dominates a room with his voice. He dominates a stadium with his presence. He dominates events. A lot of times when you guys were younger and you would go to a house party or you would go to prom or whatever, if you look at the guy who would oftentimes have people smiling and women enjoy his presence, he just had a way with words. Why do you think when you go in your car, you're always listening to music? Every event, like I'm big when it comes to music. You enjoy the spoken word, or even on YouTube, social media. People are constantly consuming content from people who have a gift with words. Now, not everybody is super skilled and super talented, but that's my point. If you were not blessed with supernatural strength, my brother, you can still be blessed with supernatural ability to be able to speak to your words. Example, I'm in sales. You know, bro, I've been skinny my whole life. I'll bring this down. Like, you can see I'm skinny, dog. I heard about it throughout my whole adolescence, my whole childhood. But the thing is, my life really started to change when I literally made one of the worst decisions that society would essentially deem, because I dropped out of college. But I didn't really drop out. I just went into a university of social skills because I got into sales, door-to-door sales to be specific. And what I learned is that not only could I talk to people, but it molded how I could be a leader. It molded how I could convey and control a conversation. So not only did it help me make more money, it helped me have better relationships with women. It helped me network and find great people, great personalities, not just women, but men. I had great mentors. I met guys who really impacted me. And even to this day, I'm still inspired by a lot of the people that I met, but I would have never had those opportunities had I not learned how to hone my voice and become more socially dominant. So this is something that a lot of guys overlook. But if you want to make yourself different, if you want to have the presence of a king and eventually have the aura and the way with words to have people serve you willingly, and I'm not talking about like on some peasant thing, but I'm talking about when you have a great personality, people want to help you, people want to be around you, people support you, people are inspired by you. If you want to have that, you need to work on your social dominance. If you're a guy who's socially awkward, hey bro, you have to get out that turtle shell someday. If you're a guy who is introverted, that's fine. But you're gonna have different aspects in different situations where you're gonna have to go out there and speak, job interviews, networking events, things like that. Because the man who lacks social dominance, he's socially weak. And people are going to walk over him in social dynamics and in interpersonal relationships the same way that the giant would walk over a guy who is physically weak. So work on your social dominance. The second aspect, and it kind of goes hand in hand with social, but emotional dominance. This is by far the weakest area that most men are. A lot of men think that, oh, I'm physically weak, bro, I don't work out, or I'm not that tall. But a lot of you guys, when it comes to your emotional control, you're weak as hell. So many guys grew up either being raised by their mother or being raised by feminine men that they do not have a masculine stoic control over their emotions. And when I say stoic, I'm not talking about you getting stabbed in your arm and you ain't crying, or your dad or your mother, God forbid, dies and you're like, oh, it's okay, bro, I'm still a soldier. No, real men do show emotion, but real men, kings, if you call yourself a king, you're not controlled by your emotion. You rule your emotions, because how can you be a king and rule over other people and have responsibility over other people, but you can't even rule your emotions that you feel every day? You crying and losing control that you can't even finish work. You can't be a leader. Let's say you have a child and you get so upset, you crash out, and now you're going to prison and going to jail because you couldn't control something that you deal with each and every day. A man who is emotionally dominant fully regulates himself. And if you're a guy who's very up and down, emotionally volatile, you have to go in and you got to face your inner demons. I made a video on this when it came to, I think it was 5 factors that contribute to a man's aura. You're going to have to go in and reflect, because the man who is emotionally irregulated, he probably has a lot of insecurities, a lot of past traumas, a lot of thoughts that he tries to run away from, that they spill over and he starts to become volatile. It's like a car. When you have a leak, you don't realize it until you go under the hood and you see where there are holes within your car. Well, the same structure is in your mentality, in your psyche, in your mind. So you have to address those things. And once you learn that, you will be dominant over yourself. And also, you start to learn how to influence other people through emotions. Because I can sit here and talk to you all day, but the reason why my face is like this and why my voice goes up is because it sparks a certain level of emotion within you that moves you. Why do you think so many people say you don't buy logic, you buy emotion? Because when you become so skilled with your emotional dominance, you start to learn how to invoke emotion. The reason why so many people love music is because it puts a spirit on us. It puts a feeling on us. So many people, they associate their emotions with something, to a memory that they had around it. Why do you think a lot of women, they go for a guy who's like a Jack Dawson, or they go for a guy who's like a Tony Stark? Not because he's a billionaire playboy, even though that helps, but because he knows how to invoke an emotion in them, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whether it's sadness, whether it's joy, whether it's pleasure. So when you're a man and you not only learn how to rule your emotions, but you learn how to influence and change the atmosphere of the emotions around you, that's how you become dominant. And fun fact, if you have emotional dominance, you are on average more dominant than the guy who is physically dominant. I can promise you that. Now, the next form of dominance is something that a lot of people lack, and even in myself, and nobody's gonna have this perfect. Mental dominance. What is mental dominance? Mental dominance is when your psyche, when your mentality is challenged. Because regardless of how great your life may be in time, you're gonna go through hard times. Even in certain events, when you're in sports, when you're creating music, when you have a certain expectation at your job, within your relationship, you may have a deadline. You may have overarching pressure. You may have external factors that are trying to come to you and take you off your path. And you as a man, you're gonna have to learn how to respond. So many people understand that pressure either bursts pipes or it builds diamonds, it refines diamonds. When you read throughout the Bible, it speaks about how the Most High, he will put you through trials and tribulations, or what do they call hellfire, so that way you can be tested just like a diamond is tested, just like silver is shaped, just like gold is reformed and refined until it becomes something beautiful. Well, you as a man, you can go so much farther if you learn to control your mentality, but this is hard. It is very challenging, especially if you've been somebody where you came from a hectic environment. You may have had family members or parents who would always talk shit to you, not because they hated you, but oftentimes they hate themselves and they project their mentality on yours. A lot of people in this society, they talk about you have a poor man's mindset, meaning that you operate in scarcity and you feel like opportunities aren't coming your way. A lot of that just comes from mentality. But also, when you're in pressure situations, when you were younger, you probably weren't this super confident guy. A lot of our childhood can be very traumatic. And the thing that you need to understand is the thoughts that you had as a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever, they get ingrained in your computer program called your mind, called your computer system within your brain, right? Oftentimes when you're operating on a day-to-day basis, those old programs, they come back out. So when you're about to approach a woman and all of a sudden you freeze and can't think, it's because the old you used to be afraid. That would happen to me. And from time to time, I still struggle with that. Other times when you're dealing with pressure, you start to think, oh shit, I'm about to fail because this person rejected me. And you start to not perform, even though you've been training, even though you've been working, even though you've been refining yourself, because you lack mental dominance. You're mentally weak. So this is going to be one of the most important things that if you as a man master, you are going to stand tall while everybody else falls. You're going to be the guy that people trust and that they can count on, and that they have certain expectations of you, that when they can rely on you, you'll have greater opportunities, you'll get better paying jobs, you'll exert yourself as a leader, and you will dominate fields because you never fold while everybody else does. Why do you think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time? Yeah, he was gifted, he was skilled, but Vince Carter was gifted and skilled. LeBron is gifted and skilled. But Jordan had the ability to take his natural talents and mold and morph it with his mindset to become unstoppable. Same thing with Tom Brady. And Tom Brady didn't have the athletic skills, but his mentality around winning and execution is what allowed him to be better than everybody else. So those are just two examples. But if you as a man can become mentally dominant, what did I tell you in the last two? You can be even more dominant than the biggest giant on earth. And the last form of dominance, and this is what a lot of guys pursue in life, when they learn something, they learn a passion, they learn a skill, and they just reform and refine it. Again, I use a basketball example. Steph Curry, 6'3", 6'2", very frail. He had a lot of injuries, and he still gets injured, even though he's built up his body. But when that man comes on the NBA court, people are shaking. They're shitting in their pants when they see him. They're shitting bricks when they see Steph Curry about to pick up a ball. Why? Because he's bumping people like LeBron? No. Because that shot, boy, that shot's so wet, bro. The shot literally changed the fabric of how NBA teams play basketball. Not just NBA, but college and even high school. Because he had such a great influence, because his skill was so dominant, people literally were afraid of him and wanted to emulate him. If you guys have a talent, again, voice, making music, boxing, Muay Thai, MMA, to be able to create videos, you have a great personality. Somebody on YouTube that I can think of, Soluminati, he doesn't script his videos. He doesn't think of topics. He just goes off the top of his head and it draws people in because he has the gift, a skill of natural charisma and humor. You guys have gifts. And that's the whole point of this video. A lot of guys think that your gift comes from your size because they're looking at it from a physical aspect. But again, I wholeheartedly believe that the Most High gives every man a gift. And if you learn what it is, and if you refine it and you stay committed to it and dedicated to it, and you find a field or avenue where you can express that gift and exert your will and dominate through it, you can become dominant. But you have to be willing to go out there and try new things, get out of your comfort zone, and even potentially even fail. When I first started certain things, I was dog shit at it. Like sales, conveying myself. My first job was cool, but the second job, door to door, I was bad. because I didn't understand how to do the art of selling yet. But I stuck with it, and it became one of the greatest skills that I ever had because it got me on a path to be able to convey myself, which is what you're seeing on this video, regardless of how many fucking views I have. So when you guys figure that out with what you're doing in life, you too can reach that certain level. And what happens when you guys get into the state of dominance, you stop having to prove yourself. Wherever you're at, people just stop trying you because they can understand that that internal conflict you have on how you see yourself in the mirror, it completely goes away. It completely goes away. And you find inner joy and validation in who you are, that you just naturally exude dominance. And a lot of things that I'm telling you, the social, the emotional, the mental, they start to get honed and refined naturally. So I hope this video helps because a lot of guys struggle, especially younger guys. If you're in school, you probably deal with bullying because you exude weakness in your aura and your mentality because nobody ever sat you down and say, hey, bro, just because you're not 6,000 pounds, bro, doesn't mean that people can't feel your dominance, feel your presence, right? So, you know, a lot of you guys, if you struggle with this, watch this video. And I challenge you to go out there and figure what that is because I had to learn it myself. So anyways, man, if you guys enjoyed it, like the video, you enjoy this type of content, make sure y'all subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one, man. Peace.